Hey
Why?
everyone, welcome back to 20s Decoded, where we help ambitious young professionals like ourselves grow their career while prioritizing their health and having fun. I'm Arjun, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Penelope. How are you doing, Penelope?
Hey, Arjun. Listen, I'm doing great. I'm still like, to be honest, a bit sore because on Thursday, I essentially had a guy open his door right in front of me while I was biking, and so I essentially flew over the door. So it was a bit scary, and yeah, but I'm
Oh my
fine.
God, do you have any
But I'm still a bit
bruises
sore.
or like what?
Anyway.
Hopefully, like you're okay, right? Like you're able to walk around, nothing like serious happened, right?
No, no, it just hurts. And it was like difficult to sleep because my left arm is hurting and my
Oh.
right leg is hurting. So very difficult to pick a side.
Oh my god,
So
no. Does that
anyway.
screw up your gym routine, your daily routine now, or are you comfortable doing all your set routine right now?
No, I still went to the gym. Just I wanted to have like still the blood flow to my muscles and so on, just like to I modified a little bit the workout, but still. Anyway, it was fun. What about you? Did you have like any adventure this week
Adventure,
or
no. It's
anything
kind of
fun?
more so of planning my schedule, right? Or like not planning my schedule, but planning my move in to my new apartment. That's in 2 weeks. So I'm trying to find out all the furniture and coordinating with movers and coordinating with the people at work, also just making sure that they're comfortable with me taking off. And I kind of I was on the fence about doing this, but I booked a trip to Chicago with a bunch of friends from back home. So that's actually like the same week that I'm moving. So looks like I'm gonna be super packed for that 1 week.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an
An
adventure.
adventure
Actually,
coming
that's
up.
two adventures. So amazing. Yeah.
Alrighty, Penelope. Where would we like to begin? What is our topic of today?
I think that today we want to discuss managing stress in your 20s because even if people can say, oh, you're only in your 20s, you don't have a family to take care of, you don't have children, and so on, you still have a lot of things that you want to deal with during your 20s. And so I feel that finding some ways to just manage the stress that can come from those various situations, either at work, in your personal life, and so on, it can be helpful just to showcase some personal experience of stressful situations for us, explaining a little bit the science behind that, and also offering some tools that we've used in the past in
Yeah,
order to control our
definitely.
stress levels.
We like go from like one stage, right, where we're finishing off college and we dealt with a lot of stresses of like finals, midterms, homeworks, and just friendships over there to like transitioning to like a full-time job and navigating those stresses. So like it's changing your mindset from one to another and navigating through that, which can become a handful, right? So it's good to I would love to hear your experiences like navigating from college stress to work life stress, right? And or like how did you deal with it initially, or like what was the stresses that you were feeling initially?
Yeah, so the answer to how did I deal with it, it's pretty badly, meaning I was not, I did not have any way to actually control my stress level. Because when I was in college and then graduate school, essentially the only way I managed to control my stress level was to
Mhm,
get more control on the situation. Meaning, what can be stressful when you're in college or graduate school is just like your exams or just things that you can actually control by studying more. When
mhm,
studying more is not always the solution, but that's the way that I found in order to actually control the stress level. Just saying, okay, I will study more so that I can put like everything to my advantage in order to make sure that I'm
mhm.
actually going to have a good grade and so on. So that was the way I was dealing with stress when I was still a student. But then you switch to the work life and you don't have those exams anymore. And so I was a bit lost, to be honest, because I still wanted to find a way to, let's say, evaluate myself, but it was still super hard to find something that I could control around that. And so I was just constantly overwhelmed but by all the inputs that you can have, either from work, or where you need to do like this task and then this task and then this task, or even like personal life, especially moving from France to the US, moving from New York to San Francisco. It was like a lot of stressors, and I was really not doing a good job at managing those stressors. Um, but it was interesting to see also the impact that it had on my overall quality of life. Meaning that I noticed that on the days when I was really stressed, my sleep was actually not good at all the night after that. And it's interesting because I have this Whoop band, which basically measures my stress level during the day. And then it also measures my sleep at night. And there is a direct correlation between my stress level during the day and the quality of my sleep at night. It's crazy. Have you noticed this kind of
Plenty
things
of
as well?
times. I honestly like going through college, right? Like you tend to survive on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. For at least for my situation, from earlier episodes, we know you weren't like that. But for me, I no, I honestly didn't notice it at first, and then when I got into the workforce, I started seeing that like wow, like I truly need like the more stress I get, right? You start working harder, you're trying to do all the assignments, try to finish everything, and then that takes away from your sleep time, right? Because you're working throughout the night, and then you realize like, oh wow, I'm only getting 5 hours of sleep, and I'm not feeling like I can operate at full efficiency, right? So then you wake up and you're doing the same cycle over and over again. It's like how like I was like, damn, like really sleep really plays a significant and profound role into our daily lives and the amount how we manage stress itself. So truly sleep does navigating through college for me at least, right, was pretty difficult to be honest, like with all the credits and managing all the stresses behind that, right? I was thinking like 21 credits on average. So a lot of tests, a lot of homework assignments to manage, and like figuring out what takes priority. And thinking about it now and thinking back then, I'm like, wow, it was a lot simpler times in managing, right? And then when you get into the full adulthood, right when you graduate college, undergrad at 22, you're like, shoot, now I have a paycheck coming in, navigating like paying bills and getting work done on time and making sure that you're like behaving like in like a good manner at work, right? And not trying to upset anybody is a lot to deal with, right? And it's a very big change up to what you were dealing with like 3 months ago when you were just finishing up college. So there's so many stressful moments that you happen during the work day, and it's honestly like navigating, at least in our jobs, right? There's certain periods where it's not a lot of work and it's very chill, and there's certain periods, and I know from your own experience of coming back from PTO, right, that there are high points where like you have to get a ton of work done in a very short amount of time, and you're like, shoot, what the hell, like I thought I planned for this, and like I made sure that I got all my work done on time, and I have a set schedule. But the thing is that work doesn't operate by that schedule, and it operates on its own terms. And stressful moments can really hit you like right at the start of the day, right? Like from I would love to we were discussing this at work, right? But I would love for you to like explain like, you came back from PTO and like you had all this work initially come up to you. Like, can you explain to us like what happened?
Yeah, so I think that for work in general, the difference between being in your professional life and being in your college or graduate school is just that when you're at college or graduate school, you have this set schedule, and the uncertainty that you have around this schedule is really, really low. So the stress level that you have is only due to the fact that you know that you're going to need to do this task or this task. And then if you plan accordingly, everything, quote unquote, is going to be okay because you planned for it. But now in the workforce, not everything is under your control. And even if you have your schedule at the beginning of the day with your all your meetings and so on, it's still not under your control. And you can have a meeting pop up or another task that pops up. And it's this additional uncertainty on top of the task that you need to accomplish that for me gives the highest amount of stress. Meaning that I really like and want to be organized in my work, like planning my deep work sessions and so on. But what happens if during the time where I actually plan to have a deep work session, I have a meeting that pops up? I'm screwed. And this is this source of stress, which for me is the hardest to actually manage, because the other ones I know that I can be very efficient when I'm working. I know what to do. I know how to have some deep work session, to be really focused and so on. But the fact that I'm not in control of everything
Mhm.
is the biggest source of
It's a
stress for me.
sense of like it's locus of control, right? It's out of your control and truly like you don't it doesn't operate on your schedule. And I can resonate with that feeling, right? Like you have a certain plan, you're ready to attack it, you finish the work, and then people are like, no, we wanted something else, right? And it's out of your control, and you're like, well, I have to go repeat the cycle, and I have to adjust my schedule that what I was going to do right now, to push it back, and you got to get this work done as well. So I definitely can resonate with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's why one of the best skills that you could have at work or in life in general is this ability to switch between being super alert, being ready to go as if you were chasing a lion, and a state that is more relaxed, that is more like the digesting state. It's actually like the two main parts of your nervous system. You have the sympathetic nervous system, which is essentially the fight or flight mode, as if you were chasing a lion. So you want to be super ready to have a lot of energy. You have your heart rate that increases, you have more blood pressure, and you have more energy available in order to deal with this stress or danger. And it's good to be able to be in this stressed mode, quote unquote. Because, for instance, when people were chasing lions or chased by a lion, for what I know, it's good to be able to just like run as fast as you can. But then, once this is done, you want to be able to switch to a more relaxed state, which is the parasympathetic state. It's, for instance, after a good meal, you want to be able to digest and to conserve energy. You want your heart rate to be able to slow down, to just like relax your muscles and so on. And this is the second part of the nervous system, which is the parasympathetic state. And we can clearly see that in every situation, we want to be able to switch between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It's not about always being in a parasympathetic nervous system when you're super relaxed. Otherwise, you're just going to be eaten alive by the lion that's coming right in front of you. But you do not want to be chasing a
Right.
lion when you're supposed to be asleep.
Right, you don't want to overexert yourself using the sympathetic system versus your parasympathetic system. Right, there has to be a healthy balance between the both of them, and like good tips to be able to manage that is the key ways of success of managing the stress. Right, like you had said, right, like having using that system is a very healthy and good thing. Right, but overexerting yourself is a very bad thing, which can lead to multiple things and which we're not going to delve into today, but like it's good to be able to use both systems. For me, right, like I usually when I'm in that fight or flight mode, right, and like what really triggers my stress is public speaking, for example, right, and all these different like when you have to speak at work to a an executive leader or speaking to somebody that like a client for example like really stresses me out, and the best ways that I found that like helped me right is by taking deep breaths in and actually trying to calm myself down. It's I have it took me a while to learn these techniques. I usually, in the past, when like I was in college, if I had something to say, right, or if I had to present in front of a big, large audience, I would tend to run away or hand off the responsibilities to someone else because I was genuinely scared, and my heart felt like it was like running like 100 miles per hour, and I was like, when I first came into the workforce, I was still doing the same thing, and after a certain point, and I would realize that like I cannot operate on this lifestyle or like do this because I will never learn. It's better to embrace this and tackle this as I go. So it triggers the stress a lot, but I'm still trying to learn and manage this stress. How about you, Penelope? Have you had instances where like your stress has been triggered and that sympathetic system has been activated to like is like due to stress?
Yes. So when I was in New York, I feel that I was completely blocked into this stressed mode with my sympathetic nervous system that was constantly activated, meaning that I was waking up in the morning just like ready to go, ready to work. So what was I doing? I was going like straight to the gym in the morning, not even taking the time to just actually take a few quick breaths and just actually calm down a little bit. So straight from bed to the gym, and then from the gym rushing to actually like get my breakfast, like 5 minutes, and then going to work, and then not taking enough breaks. So you can see still it was 11 a.m. And from the moment I woke up to 11 a.m., my body was constantly in an activated, stressed mode. And it was not even the end of the day because it was always on and on and on. And even when I was taking breaks, I was always listening to a podcast, listening to music, and then going back to work in order to have meetings. And then at the end of the day, going outside to just see some friends or listen to a podcast, always doing something, always this
Hmm.
constant stimuli that did not allow my nervous system to switch between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And so I was constantly stressed. And as a result, I was just not sleeping at night. And it was a
Hmm.
negative feedback loop, meaning that I was stressed, so I was not sleeping at night. And when you're a little bit sleep deprived, your ability to deal with stress is just lower. So then you're more stressed during the day. And it was impossible for me to just get out of this loop. But thankfully, I have a lifestyle and fitness coach, and so she used me a lot to just switch between this sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system by just like giving me a few techniques that I can use that only takes 5 minutes during the day, but those 5 minutes, maybe like 4 times a day, it's only 20 minutes. It's made all the difference. And I was actually able to switch between a stress mode and a relaxed mode by just doing some breathing exercises and so on. And so it's crazy because I feel that maybe what matters most is not necessarily to remove all sources of stress, because I'm never going to be able to remove all sources of stress. I'm still going to have those stressful meetings, those stressful presentations. Even when I'm going to the gym, it's actually a stressor to my body because I'm trying to lift heavy stuffs. It's not something that you're supposed to do like on a, just like right on the street, lift,
Or in the middle of
like
the
200
office?
pounds. It's not something so it's not something that you're doing on a regular basis. So it's not about removing the stressors. It's about learning how to deal with them so that when you're actually having those stressors, you can be in a stress mode, but right afterwards, you need to be able to rapidly switch to a relaxed state. And that's the biggest learning that those stress management
Mhm.
techniques have just taught me, and how to actually deal with my stress level. Because I have as many stressors right now as I had when I was in New York. It's just that I'm dealing with them
Interesting.
way
I love
better.
to hear that, like, with working with the professionals helped you make you realize this. For me personally, a lot of the stress, and I learned this while I was in grad school in Boston, right? Was that a great way to help me deal with my stress, and not only stress and anxiety as well, was by going on late night walks actually. And so what would happen is that like schoolwork would be a lot. I was doing a part-time job back then, and I was dealing a lot with a lot of personal stuff at the time. What I found to be very helpful for me was to kind of escape that area, that way of thinking, right? And the best way I thought it was that I would actually drive down to the beach every night around like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and I would just do like 4 or 5 miles of just walking. And I would just try to think of stuff outside of work, outside of life, and I envision a future where I think I could be at my operate on my peak level, right? And it's always dangerous to daydream, but sometimes it's very healthy to daydream. And it made me become optimistic and think that like, okay, if I operate on this and this way, I'm able to get to a certain point in my life as well. Right? Where do don't focus on what is happening right now. See where you want your life to be and envision that for yourself. And that's truly what like helped me become better and envision the life I wanted to and actually make that a reality. I use that as a moment to just forget what's happening right now and envision the future. And I thought that was like a very helpful and easy way to manage my stress and anxiety at the time.
I absolutely love that because, in fact, it reminds me of two techniques
Uh-huh.
that I'm using on a day-to-day basis. The first one is going on unplugged walk outside, and by unplugged, I mean not listening to music, not listening to podcasts, and just listening to the noise, to the noise that you have around you, or just like taking some deep breaths in, deep breath out, and even for 5-10 minutes, so that you don't have any external input that goes into your brain, and you have just like, you can just be yourself and be in your thoughts and so on. So that's the first technique. And then the second one that you mentioned, with just like envisioning where you want to be, it reminds me of something that I'm using, which is visualization. Basically, you envision a place where you feel super comfortable. For me, actually, the place that I'm using, it's funny because we went there together. It's a Cabrillo Point in San Diego. You know, like when you have like the amazing view on the Pacific Ocean, and then you have like all the view on the actual city of San Diego, and it's just like this place is amazing because it's basically uses all my senses. You have, so you're just the view, which is just amazing. So closing my eyes and just like lying in bed and thinking that, okay, I'm at this place. What do I see? I see the waves, I see the city, I see the entire ocean right in front of me. Then what are the noises that I can hear? It's maybe the waves, maybe some birds that you have around you, maybe the wind. Then third sense, what do I feel? Like I feel the wind on my skin. If I'm touching, I don't know, like some other things. What am I touching? Then you have the smell of the sea, which is also amazing. And finally, it was not at that place, but just like feeling, so something as if you were eating something. What do you have like inside your mouth, and so on. And so using your five senses, visualizing a place that feels safe, and putting yourself in that place for maybe only 5 minutes, closing your eyes and bringing all your senses, I've noticed that my stress level, it automatically comes down. But it's impressive. When I look at it on my Whoop, I'm just like,
Do you
wow,
notice like your heart
that's
rate going
crazy.
down as well when you're in that zone?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 for sure. It's one of my favorite stress management technique because you can
Mhm.
basically do it anywhere you want. I mentioned lying on my bed, but it can just be like sitting on the in the restrooms, just like for what matters. Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all you need. Even at work, just like sitting at your desk, closing your eyes, maybe like putting your headphones so that you're not disturbed and so on, but without any music. Just
Yeah,
like
no, I definitely
being in
agree.
your
Like
space.
canceling out all the noise that's like in your head and coming from like external audio, like from your headphones, but actually like listening to the sound surrounding you. And it's actually very serene and peaceful, to be honest. Like it feels weird at first and it's very foreign, but like it's, you start getting used to it and you start enjoying the simple things, right? And I truly value that. Like even when I was in Boston, I learned this. I did it in San Diego. I would walk to the Marine District every day in the evening, and then when I moved to New York, I would do this actually by walking along the West Side Highway and along the East River as well. So just being personally for me, and this is very subjective, I like walking around bodies of water, and I like the sounds of the waves crashing and the river flowing. And this, don't get me wrong, I don't genuinely like the cars honking on the streets that are right going by you, but you have to do what you have, right? And that's generally, that just makes me happy. Another helpful technique that I found to help me manage all the thoughts that are running around my head was actually starting a journal. And writing in a journal was like the best way to actually keep lower my stress level down. It helped me write down my thoughts and have like having a place to put them in is like really helpful and a very helpful technique that I found useful in my life. It's low cost, it's low risk. You just take a pen and just start jotting down your ideas. This is for you and yourself. It seems like a very simple technique, but it was actually one of the best techniques that I found around. I was able to like write like certain, like how I felt a certain way, like say if someone said something to me, like my manager said something to me or someone said something to me, I wrote it down, and then like you write down like what like, so this is like how you feeling during the day, and then like what you do in your day, and then like genuinely at the end of writing down like your thoughts, I would write down what I am grateful for, right? And it's a good reminder as to like what the people that you have in your life, to be grateful that you have a job, that you have a place to live. And to be honest, we're very fortunate people to be able to live the lifestyles that we currently live, right? And it's a good reminder to yourself that, like life may be stressful, but we are where we are today because of all the hard work that we have accomplished so far. So I would think about it like that as well.
Yes, I love it. And do you do it on a
I
day-to-day
used to be
basis for
really good
journaling?
about it. I've been on and off recently. I'm not like I have to follow. I should be following my own advice as well. But I used to be very good for about a year and a half, and then like when as soon as our jobs got a little bit more busy, I've been putting like sleep as a priority before journaling. So it's something like I have to still figure out how to navigate doing both and making sure that like work doesn't cut into my own personal life.
Yes, and I completely get what you're saying because so working New York time while being on the West Coast, I really had to be very clear about some boundaries that I had with myself, meaning that if I start working at 6 a.m. in the morning, I cannot just wake up at like 5:58 and jump straight from my bed to my computer because then it means that right after waking up, I'm in a super stress mode because I see all those Slack messages coming in, those emails, things that I need to do, and so on that are sometimes completely unpredictable, even if I have planned my day in advance. So what I've started doing is just waking up exactly 7 minutes before. So I wake
Mhm.
up at 5:50 and I use those 7 additional minutes to just do 7 minutes of journaling. So I wake up, I go prepare a cup of tea, and then I do 7 minutes of journaling. And those 7 minutes, they make the biggest difference in my stress levels throughout the day. Because it means that right out of bed, I do not have any external stimuli just coming into my brain. It's me putting things that are in my brain out of my brain, only for 7 minutes. And then I'm ready to go for my work day, even if it's 6 a.m., but I'm ready to go because I am in a relaxed state and I'm ready to tackle the day, even if I have a super focused deep work session going on right after that. Those 7 minutes, they are really the highlights of my day. And it means that I'm sleeping 7 minutes less or maybe going seven to bed 7 minutes earlier. But it's made the
I l
biggest
I love
difference
that, Penelope. I've actually
throughout my
never
day.
heard of that technique, but it sounds like really really helpful. Have you been doing this? Have you been keeping up with it, like, every day?
Yes. So you might have noticed, but I've started a newsletter on LinkedIn, the, the feed data scientist.
It's a very insightful newsletter. I highly do
So
recommend reading it.
yeah, and so mainly what's inside this newsletter is just like snippets of what I write into my journal of just things that I've noticed during my week, that I've experienced, some feelings and so on. But I still want it to be action based. So it's not everything that I write into my journal because I don't want my journal to be absolutely, completely public. But it's still some snippets of what I'm writing during those 7 minutes every day, and I'm taking like other minutes during the day to actually write the newsletter, but it's essentially a condensed version of
I
what I'm
love
writing
that.
every morning.
Um, I know we're like I do want to have one last point that I wanted to discuss, and feel free to add on to this. But it kind of ties back into what we were discussing in an earlier podcast episode, right? And it's very helpful in terms of managing stress. And this is having healthy habits in your day to day routine that really is the main way to manage stress. Like eating on time, having great sleep patterns, having an agenda, it's all part of the process. It's all tied in together, right? And if one, like for me, I know like if one thing goes askew, then the entire thing falls apart. And I have to find build safety measures to this, but like I've established this routine of being able to, hey, I'm going to work out at this specific time. I'm going to work from this specific time. I have a time to hang out with friends, and I have things that I want to do on a day to day. It's a great way to manage stress, and the agenda we is a way to manage stress, but at the same time, things will go askew. But the thing is that you can also tell your manager that like because of this assignment came up, I have to push this back, and they'll be completely understanding of that. So I do find that healthy habits plays a significant role into managing stress and anxiety.
Yes, I agree. And for me, what I learned, it's not so much about those healthy habits and being super rigid about when you're going to apply them. Because for instance, when I was in New York, I was super stressed about the exact time where I needed to eat. I needed to go to the gym. I needed to do my breathing exercises. And so I was stressed about not being able to do the activities that were supposed to lower my stress
Yeah.
level. So you can see it's a bit weird. And so what I found is it's having some templates or blocks of times that you can have during the day and some cue about when to start the activity. For instance, I might not be able to go to the gym at the exact time that is the best for me. Because for me, it's going to the gym in the morning, which obviously I cannot do right now with my current work schedule. But what am I doing is just I'm always taking a small pre-workout snacks, usually like a banana or some Cheerios cereals. I love the cereals. And so for me, it's my cue, meaning that when I'm ready to go to the gym or in order to be ready to go to the gym, I do this thing. And so it puts me inside a template that then just helps my brain be in this mode of, okay, you're going to do this exercise. It's going to lower your stress level. One of the biggest thing
Mhm.
is doing some breathing exercises. I know that Andrew Huberman, and we're going to link a few resources to the podcast, but Andrew Huberman has this thing which is called the physiological sigh, which is basically you take two inhales, one short and one a little bit longer, and then a very long exhale. And it really allows your nervous system to go into this parasympathetic mode and to switch from the stress mode to the relaxed mode. There is also something else about breathing, which is the box breathing exercise, where you have essentially four periods during this breathing exercise that you repeat. It's a cycle. You have inhale, then you hold your breath, then you exhale, you hold your breath, and then you just start again. And just the fact that you are holding your breath and having a long exhale, it also allows you to switch from the stressed mode to the relaxed mode. So those are two very interesting techniques that I'm using on a daily basis. And again, it only takes 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all you need. And if investing those 2 minutes is the biggest thing when it comes to having a high return on investment on something to manage your stress level. It's not necessarily going some complex stuffs or going to the sauna, doing some cold plunges and so on, because not everybody has the time to do it. But just doing 2 or 5 minutes of breathing exercises, it can be all you need to actually manage your
Did
stress
you
level, at
recently
least for me.
discover this, or has this been something that you've been employing for a while, Penelope?
Yeah, so my coach has been telling me for a while when I was in New York, oh, maybe you need to do some breathing exercises. And I was just like, oh my God, 5 minutes of breathing exercises, it's not going to make a difference. So I was a bit slow to just get started on it. But once I got started and got into the habit of doing it, it was mind blowing. I really could never have believed that investing 5 minutes of my time to do some just bug breathing exercises could actually have such a high impact on both my stress level and my overall well-being. It,
I
it's
always get the
it's mind blowing.
notification
It's
about the
crazy.
breathe for 1 minute from my Apple Watch, and I always tend to ignore it. I'm like, oh, please stop it. But hearing from your own personal experience of doing this, like, sounds like I should really actually try to practice the breathing. And one thing that you actually discussed in an earlier episode that love, and I think is a great technique is kind of tying in what we said earlier in terms of saying, like, if you're at a very stressful moment during the workday, take a break, go away from your laptop, and go for a walk for like 10 to 15 minutes with no input. And then come back and work at it again, right? It's better to like cool down your mind, make sure that you have your thoughts clear before doing your work, right? You don't want to do a rush job where you have to come back and repeat it. Take a break. If you have 5 to 10 minutes is not going to be the end of the world, right? Go back and then come back into doing the work again. And I really do thank you for that technique because I've started to do that myself and I've seen the benefits of it, like helping me in my day to day routine.
That's amazing. And if you listener, you have some techniques that you've started using that we mentioned, just like if you can write it in the comment or just reach out on Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever. It really helps us just to see what actually works, what you're interested in learning, so that we can more do some content that is better tailored to you because
Exactly. Yeah. Like
we just
we're
want to
still
help.
learning, right? And if there's any helpful techniques, right, we would love to learn. And actually, maybe it will help us as well in navigating our stresses. I feel like stress is like a never-ending thing that's going to be happening, but the way you tackle it is how you it will change how you operate on a day-to-day routine.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And so I think that today we've touched based on a few interesting topic when it comes to just stress. First, the fact that even if you're only in your 20s, it's okay to be stressed because everybody is stressed, and the best skill is actually to learn how to manage this stress level, not necessarily to remove all the stressors because I'm never going to be able to remove all the stressors from my life, but learning how to deal with them by just incorporating some very simple techniques such as breathing exercises, going on an unplugged walk outside, doing some visualization, those very simple tools that you can do throughout your days. Instead of scrolling on Instagram for 5 minutes, just do a breathing exercise. And it's going to make a huge difference on my stress level. And I know it. Sometimes it's hard to do it, but I know the reward and I want this
I hope
reward.
that like listening to our own experiences makes like our audience realize that like they're not the only ones that go through this stress. Like we feel like we're our in our own world, that we nobody else is experiencing the same thing, when in actuality everybody's experiencing the same exact thing. Right. And these stress management tools that we've talked about so far, right, are not only applicable to work, right, but to everything, like personal relationships, finances, everything, like how you think about things, right? These are great techniques to actually help you calm down and manage the stress and make sure that your cortisol levels are not going through the roof. So I hope like we were somewhat helpful in today's podcast and navigating those stresses, and like listening to our own experiences, that like you're not the only one out there. We're all going through it, and we all have like we're all experiencing our own like problems in life. So yeah. Thanks
Yes, I
guys.
love
Bye
it.
bye.
See you next time. Bye.